So we want to welcome you all to the webinar in which we're going to be talking about some of our new products that were just released toward the end of 2016. So not the stuff that was released at the CEDIA show or the Infocom shows for those of you that came by our booth, but some of the products that were released in the fourth quarter. And there's a big difference between the products that were released at Infocom, at CEDIA shows, and the products that were released in the fourth quarter of 2017. And the biggest difference, the biggest concern to you, the custom installer, is high bandwidth. High bandwidth digital signals. High bandwidth, you see, we're now at a point in the industry where bandwidth is actually important. over time, when even in the days of analog video, there were a lot of bullet points and features and benefits of products that mentioned, oh, we have the highest bandwidth, so we could support these extremely high bandwidth signals or high resolution signals. However, especially in the analog world, it never really got too close to being a signal that was too large for the pipe to handle. However, now with the latest standard of HDMI and digital video signals, we are now actually exceeding the bandwidth capabilities of the previous generation HDMI specification. And so that, of course, leaves custom installers in a tough position because they might have worked with equipment only a year or 2 years ago that, of course, was not cheap. And now come time for the end user to add a new video source that perhaps has HDMI 2.0, can support HDR, for example, is one of the big buzz terms, HDR, which can support HDCP 2.2, right? HDCP 2.2 is a new bandwidth, standard in the copyright protection that, although the previous generation HDCP supported HDCP or 4K, it didn't actually support the HDCP 2.2, and the 2.2 standard is not backward compatible. So, you know, the video realm is constantly evolving, and we at KeyDigital have spent a lot of time and effort into conforming to that, trying to get ahead of the curve as much as possible, but also have to approach things reasonably because of the world we live in, where we deal with systems with many displays, many sources, and to have this kind of capability in a system like that is not always possible. So we want to educate you instead on exactly why there is a problem and what we do to resolve that, and introduce you to the products that are going to be some of your best friends going forward. Now, you guys may have seen this slide before. We've been doing this for the past dozen years now, or let's say 10 years, since our first HDMI distribution amplifier. Let's go ahead and resolve that typo there. Our first distribution amplifiers always treated the 3 layers of HDMI signal in their own respective way. Those 3 layers, TMDS, that's your video and audio signal. That does mean bandwidth now, right? That's part of it. Now, what's unique about digital versus the analog is that video and audio are together in the HDMI world. So if video is arriving but audio is not, it doesn't mean that it's a video problem or an audio problem, because the TMDS is successful, that layer of the HDMI digital signal. Instead, it could mean your EDID has a problem. That's the handshake. The handshake, as it's referred to in the layman's terms, if you will, TMDS, just, you know, let's simplify that. Video and audio. EDID, extended display identification data. Don't worry about all the long words. Just It's the handshake, right? So this is something that you all have educated yourself on over the years, is HDMI handshaking, right? Because this is, if you're going to get to the bottom of a problem in troubleshooting like we have to at KeyDigital with some of our tech support here, we are the people you call because we're in the middle. We know how to describe the HDMI handshake process to you, and we know how to handle it through our products. But imagine a simple system, one where perhaps KeyDigital's not involved, one where perhaps you yourself are not involved, a one-to-one connection, right? A television tells the source its handshake, and when it gives that EDID file to the source, it is a top-down list of resolutions and audio formats that display supports. And it happens on the consumer side, and it also happens on the professional side. So it doesn't matter if it's a consumer display talking to a Blu-ray player or a professional projector speaking to a connected computer of sorts. There's that EDID file, and it's not just video and audio formats. We break it down simply into video and audio formats when you look at our owner's manuals and when we discuss this. Of course, there's a lot more in-depth information in the digital video world that even one-to-one presents the opportunity for a misread to occur. So even in the one-to-one realm, you may have problems, but that's why it's so valuable to have a product like a KeyDigital in the middle where we have the EDID buffering, meaning we are going to provide the handshake to the connected source. And if they don't line up, we have, as you see, 0 through F, 16 different handshake options. And we break it down throughout all these years of products, whether it's the least expensive product or the most expensive product from KeyDigital, they all have the same EDID library. We do not sacrifice this EDID management because this is what makes KeyDigital products so reliable. We give you each video resolution has 3 audio formats. Sorry, new tongue, just breaking it in today apparently. Each video resolution gives you 3 audio formats to suit your application, and as you see on D, E, and F, on the left-hand side, product with rotary, they even have computer resolutions, DVI, where there would be no audio format along with it. And so this has been a safety net for you in the field for many, many years. And some of the competition is catching on to this and has caught on to this, where we were definitely a pioneer in this buffering, where we are the traffic police. However, the competition doesn't have the in-depth library that we have yet. A lot of times we see they have maybe 1 or 2 options, but not 16. And believe me, in the real world where you encounter pitfalls, you want to have more options. Well, that handshake has been a nice safety net in the past. You may still encounter a problem. Even if you don't have video distribution, video switching, you have the latest HDMI specification where you got the high bandwidth UHD 4K up to 2160p, frame rate up to 60 Hertz, color spacing, you see the brackets there, that's what you always see, 420, for example, 400, 420, 444. What that refers to is the red, green, and blue, and the depth for each of those 3 color space. Okay, so of course the higher the number, the heavier the signal. Color depth, 12-bit, for example, and now HDR. And this is, again, the buzz term that your end users are looking for. They turn on the television, they have you install the latest and greatest UHD Blu-ray player, for example, with their brand new $30,000 projector, and boy, they know it's 4K, right? But they're looking for that HDR icon on the top of the screen. And if they don't see it, they want to know why. Well, you may end up having this problem even without any hardware in the middle, even with just a long HDMI cable or an extender, for example, so that you have a professional installation where your source is located out of sight, out of mind of your end user, you may have no picture whatsoever. Why? Because all of these factors, frame rate, color spacing, color depth, and HDR, when you add them all up and max them all out, or max them all out and then add them all up, it's going to equal 18 gigabits per second. And if you look at the infrastructure of the products this time last year, or certainly 18 and 24 months ago, they were not capable of handling that bandwidth signal. And this is a problem for you in the real world. We've had people call and say, look, all I have is an HDMI cable between this new UHD 4K display and my video source. I'm calling you guys KeyDigital because you usually know your stuff. What's going on here? And we have to explain to them. We've brought plenty of displays into our lab and plenty of sources as well. We've observed the behavior of the good displays and bad displays. Now, I'm not degrading any of these companies, but this is the reality of the behavior of their product. The Samsung UHD 4K displays, for example, they give an EDID to the UHD source that gives the green light for a full bandwidth signal, 18 gigabits per second signal, without any adjustment possible. Without any adjustment possible, meaning if you just have an HDMI cable, you have nothing in the middle to buffer the handshake, you're going to end up with, and you have, say, a long cable, you might end up with no picture because the television tells a source. And what are the new sources? You've got, for example, the Samsung UHD Blu-ray player, the Panasonic UHD Blu-ray player, your Xbox One, your PlayStation 4. They're going to give the Samsung UHD display, the JVC projector, UHD projector, give the handshake information without any adjustment possible, giving the green light for the source to output a signal that may be too heavy for a long HDMI cable to handle. Certainly more than an HD-based T extender can handle. So what can you do? Well, see, you are accustomed to calling on a KeyDigital, just like those people that I alluded to before, to fix your problem. You're familiar with our KD HD Fix 22. Well, this came out as a problem solver for HDCP 2.2. HPD, hot plug detection, buffering, audio de-embedding. Okay, many problems. This was your go-to. Guess what? The latest firmware version for the HD Fix 22, here's what we've done. We have added HDR descriptors on all of our EDID files. HDR descriptors on all of our EDID files. And this is the brilliant thing, because if you have the EDID and it tells the source, if you take a look at letter A, B, or C, 4K at 60 frames per second, that's one of those maxed out bullet points, right? Maxed out feature of HDMI 2.0. So what can happen if it didn't have an HDR descriptor, but the source decided it was going to output it with HDR? HDR would essentially make that signal too heavy, even with the old firmware of HD Fix 22. Again, we're here to educate, but the new firmware adds HDR descriptors onto all of the handshakes, resolving the problem you've had there, the HD Fix 22. Additional products with HDCP 2.2, HDR, EDID support, our new digital video matrix. 4x4 and 8x8 CSA. See, it's not enough, again, want to hammer this point home. It's not enough just to have a 4K handshake or an HDCP 2.2 handshake at this point in time. Sorry for the phone there, folks. It's not enough just to have that. You have to also have the HDR descriptor. Now, let me tell you what's unique about us. For those of you that have been into KeyDigital's office before, you can testify. We have all of our hardware, all of our software, all of our research and development on site here in Mount Vernon, New York, so we're able to accommodate and to adjust quicker than other companies that perhaps have to try to explain a problem to a factory overseas, that they may be just flipping through the pages of their catalog and saying, hey, here's our logo, please place it on that product, right? That's not how it goes with KeyDigital. There's KeyDigital engineering in every single box. Mike Sinberg's brain on every single black box here at KeyDigital. These are going to be a great, great product for you, 4x4, 8x8 CSA. They also have the audio de-embedding, and we've moved now to a Phoenix connector, which makes your life a lot easier. Doubles up on your cables as well, doesn't it? Because one cable with two ends, you cut it in the middle to use the bare wire, and now you have two cables. It's another benefit to that. And another new feature of this product is the TCPIP controllability. Get this device on your network, and you can even control it with the free KeyDigital app to control video switching for your budget-minded applications in a church, bar and restaurant, for example, or the Pro 2x1 and Pro 4x1. 2x1 and 4x1 switches, perfect for conference rooms and classroom applications, also TCP/IP controllable. Again, just get it on your network. Download the KeyDigital app right now from the App Store, and you'll see the demo for this. In fact, I'm going to pause my screen for a quick moment, jump into a quick demo for you on App Ready. Here we are. And action. Here's all App Ready products. You can download the KeyDigital app from the App Store. It is for iOS only at this moment. If you have a KeyDigital App Ready product on your network, it will auto scan and find that, giving you a nice GUI for you and your end user to utilize. Imagine any bartender and waiter server at a bar restaurant can have this on there, and they have their own control system to control surface to change the television and accommodate their customers. So this is a free app that allows you to give a very nice GUI, professional GUI. It's separate from our Compass Control. Keep that in mind. For those of you who are working with our Compass Control as well. So we're going to pause real quick and head back to our previous slide. There's another beautiful, beautiful feature of the Pro 2x1 and Pro 4x1 switches. In addition to the HDCP 2.2 compliancy and the audio de-embedding and the HDR descriptor on the EDID file, there is auto switching feature. Auto switching. I love telling the story. You guys have probably heard me talk about it not too long ago, how we installed over 60 rooms at Volvo's campus in Sweden. We won the bid. Why? Not because of, well, I'll tell you why. I don't know why the other ones didn't win. I can tell you why we won. See, at the time, Volvo, of course, had presentation switching in their rooms, but it was analog, and they wanted to go digital. Of course, KeyDigital is a very cost-effective option to some of the companies in our industry. As you guys know, we don't need to name names here. So we were a more cost-competitive option, but at the same time as going digital, they also said, we don't want a touchscreen any longer. You know, and that's a shame, because programming is what it is, right? It's your touchscreen, your system is only as good as the interface that the user gets for it. Well, apparently it wasn't too user-friendly. They didn't have a great experience with it, and they said, we don't want a touchscreen any longer. So that's why KeyDigital won the bid, because our auto switching enabled the integrator to train the end user that when it's your turn, you plug in the cable. When it's your turn to plug in, Jonathan's presenting, and when it's Jim's turn to plug in, Jim gets the HDMI cable and plugs it into his laptop when it's his turn to present, right? When Jim's done presenting, he disconnects the HDMI cable, and a newly inactive signal will automatically switch the switcher to the next available input. And that was easy enough for the end user to grasp. They place a tag on the cables or a sign on the desk that says, or on the conference table that says, when it's your turn, you plug in. Very, very easy. So those are some of the products with the HDR feature on there, and you'll want to reach out to us to find out more. But we also have our newest extenders with HDR descriptors on it. Now, HDR extenders are a bit more of, well, it took a lot more thought. It took a lot more thought to figure out how this was going to work. I'll tell you why. You see the bandwidth bullet point here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 bullet points down. Bandwidth, 10.2 gigabits per second. Recall the math equation earlier where all of the HDMI 2.0 factors maxed out will get you to 18 gigabits per second. So how is it that we're able to do HDR on an HD-based T extender? Now remember, this isn't just KeyDigital that's got a 10.2 gigabit per second extender. This is going to be everybody in the industry. Why? Because everybody's using a technology called HD-based T. It's an Emmy Award winning technology. It's brought the audio video installation, live events, and even broadcast video sides all together, unified us. It's taken a bouquet of connectivities and put it all on a single cat wire. It's a beautiful, beautiful technology. Well, guess what? Even that technology isn't good enough anymore, essentially. I love HD-based T. I'm not saying anything about anyone's products. I'm just saying the reality of it is it's only 10.2 gigabits per second. How does KeyDigital make it work? Again, our EATed handshake has the HDR descriptor. Now, I want to quickly let you know something about HDR. HDR isn't something that is married to 4K signals. HDR is actually something that goes along with 1080i, 1080p. It goes along with various video resolutions. It's not married with UHD 4K. Okay? So I want you to know that because we've been doing HDR for a long time here at KeyDigital. Okay? We've had that support, but now we have a very specific descriptor to get that signal where we need it to be for not only HDR, but all of the factors that add up to a high bandwidth, and that's how KeyDigital makes this work. But for your end user, let me tell you, HDR on versus HDR off, your end user, and you and I will see the difference. Everybody will see a difference. It doesn't matter if it's a trained eye or not. HDR does look extremely good. Okay? So they want to see that HDR logo there. That's what's important. So these are the X222 and the X222 POs. X222 requires power on both sides. The 222 PO does not. Okay, so the receive unit is powered by the transmit. It's always on the transmit that the power supply connects if you have the powered over HD-based T version. What's new about this versus our previous X200 is that there's now 2 rotaries on it, the EATed control and the control rotary that help us choose different settings for the product. EATed control, as you see to the left. Again, all with HDR. On the right, the control rotary. Now, technically, we don't need to have 16 here. Why? Because it looks like every two consecutive are the same, and that's true. But here's the big benefit of this to you. See, hot plug detection control, forcing that on. If you're not familiar with that benefit of KeyDigital, it is something exclusive to us for all my knowledge. That handshaking process we described, it never happens. Never will even occur if not for hot plug detection. Hot plug detection is when you connect a source and a display together, even with just a basic HDMI cable. You know, digital video is more intelligent than analog. The source, if I'm lazy and I leave a Blu-ray player on at home, I leave it on all the time even though my TV is on and off, my Blu-ray player doesn't output signal if there's not a live partner on the end of the cable. And so this is just one-to-one connectivity. If that voltage doesn't make it to the other end of the cable over pin 19 of the HDMI, then that Blu-ray player is not going to output. So it's possible, just like EDID, that you have a misread or a misdetection even in a one-to-one connectivity. Of course, we live in the world that is not one-to-one. We have many layers of connectivity in our systems. We have long distances that potentially could allow for the voltage to drop. And so that's why we allow you to activate the hot plug detection in our product. Instead of relying on it to pass through from the display to the source, we allow you to flip it on and get these devices seeing a live partner at the other end of the cable, making sure everybody's outputting. You also see in this table setting 8 and 9 in the control rotary. These, even the most cost-effective extenders from KeyDigital, are not only extenders, they're also professional debug and troubleshooting kits. Our status command here, STA, you could connect into us over RS-232. Send that command, STA, to KeyDigital device, and you'll see a full readout of what's happening in your system. For example, you'll see that your video input requires HDCP 2.x authentication. What if the display doesn't support that? Okay? Of course, it's not only letting you know that there is a problem, but also giving you the tools to fix it. And that's where the letter H for our help command comes into play. You could do things like turn on and off the auto reset feature of the HD-based T, where if the receive and the display don't see each other, they're constantly pinging each other, and if they don't see each other, they'll give a quick power reboot. Okay, and other features like our debug mode. So every KeyDigital product, even our most cost-effective extender, every product of ours with RS-232 control is not only the on-the-surface product, it's also got a full toolkit inside. We've also now just released the X422 POA. It's a step up from the 222. It has audio de-embedding, and it has separate connector ports for IR and RS-232, whereas the X222 is one or the other, IR or RS-232 extension or control. The X422 can do both. And the transmit unit de-embeds the audio that's fed in, so you could take something like a new Apple TV without an external audio port, and you could break it out on analog or digital audio to feed into a distributed audio system. Very nice feature. When it comes to cables, these are passive devices, right? They're passive. They don't do handshaking. So you have to be at the 18 gigabits per second bandwidth if you want to push the high bandwidth signal. All KeyDigital HDMI cables up to 30 feet are full 18 gigabits per second. So rest assured, all of your in-rack connectivity and patch cables are going to be 18 gigabits per second with KeyDigital, all the way up to 30 feet. If you want to go further than 30 feet, then you probably need to consider using something like the Fix 22, like the new DA 1x2, DA 1x4 even, but really you don't need all four outputs if you just want that HDR descriptor information to get the bandwidth where it needs to be. You're going to need one of those products if you're going greater than 40 feet. Just reach out to KeyDigital's tech support or sales support team. We know all of this information and how to get you up and running. Because our long length HDMI cables you see here, they're actually at 10.2 gigabits per second. 10.2 gigabits per second. Okay. So with that said, those are the latest and greatest products from KeyDigital. I want to just remind you about some of the resources that are going to allow you to be more profitable in 2017. Firstly and most importantly, our YouTube channel. This is where you're going to go to view this webinar in the future, to look at the latest product releases from trade shows. We've got the Integrated Systems Europe trade show coming up at Amsterdam in just 2 weeks now. Let's go to youtube.com/MashaKDS/playlists. That's M like Mike, A as Alpha, Sierra, that's S as Sierra, H as Hotel, A as Alpha, KDS like Key Digital Systems /playlists to view the different playlists we have here. It's going to be a very good educational resource for you and marketing resource. But perhaps the best technical resource you could take advantage of here at KeyDigital is our system design group, where we ask you the top 5 questions. Sources, what are they and how many? Displays, how many of them, and even what are their names if you want a really personalized design like what you see in this, this gray image here, or you could name family room, guest room, etc. Distances, or at least the max distance, which will allow us to to know what type of product we should go with. As far as our extenders go, we do have some different length extenders. Resolution, do you need 4K or do you need just 1080p, for example? And control, do you want to control with our Compass system what all devices need to be controlled, or perhaps how do you want to control our products by a different system, because we do that as well. We're very happy to be part of third-party control systems. Or if you are going Compass, what else is in this system? Lighting systems, audio systems, etc. So we'll give a list of our recommended Compass Alliance partners. It's a 2-day turnaround time that looks like what these examples we see at the bottom right corner of the screen. Page 1 is a Visio style drawing. Page 2 is a bill of materials. And for the full list of questions and the questionnaire to fill out, just head over to our web page. Just go to, well, you know what? I'll just go there myself. Can you see my screen right now? Yes, you can. KeyDigital.com I'm at. I hit technical and I go to system design group, and this is where we are, where I grab that graphic. Here they are: sources, displays, distances, resolutions, control. Save that form or take a picture of it. Send it over to SDG, System Design Group, at KeyDigital.com. 2-day turnaround time. You could use the nice Visio style drawing to present to your client. Turn it into a purchase order, and send it on over to your KeyDigital salesman. With that said, we'll spend the next minute or two allowing you some time to submit your questions on over to us. Don't be shy. If it's on your mind, it's probably on someone else's mind as well. Use the GoToMeeting chat panel to send that question over to us, please. Okay, everyone. Well, we do have a question, a comment, that kind of thing. Not a whole lot, though, and hopefully that means that I did a pretty decent job in presenting the information. But if something does come up in the future, pops up on your head there, just submit it over to us, tech@keydigital.com. One of the questions we received is, are all active HDMI cables red mirror technology by default? I mean, the answer to that, I suppose, is no. You know, I can't really say for sure that everybody's using red mirror in an active cable. In fact, I've even heard some things that, you know, red mirror isn't necessarily being used now. It was a technology that was used as a means of extending HDMI signals over long distances, longer, over cable, over copper, I should say, over traditional HDMI cable, and but now with the new needs for bandwidth, the red mirror technology is not being used as often or used to achieve that. If you can't hear it in my voice, I'm not 100% certain about that, but here's what I'd like to let you know about what I know. You know, active HDMI cables, just whenever you see that terminology, it may mean that there's an inline device that perhaps requires a power supply, but it doesn't necessarily mean it does require a power supply or has an inline device. So the term active is somewhat is used in some different ways. It's not really a standardized. There's not a lot of standardization to that terminology. But what typically happens is that, say what could it mean to be an active cable that doesn't require a power supply or doesn't have a like an inline device? It typically means that it's going to need to be installed one directionally. There will be, in the KeyDigital case, a bright yellow tag on the ends that says source and display. So the display side is obviously the end of the run. Now I say obviously, but you would probably be surprised how often people install those backward. And why the one should be installed at the end is because that head is the head that has that, let's, quote unquote, air quotes, active handling, meaning that it has perhaps some equalization to the signal. It's able to take the ones and zeros that have begun to look a little more like squiggly lines due to the distance of the signal being traveling over the copper, and the ones and zeros become squiggly lines. Well, this may restore them back to being ones and zeros again. So most importantly, with KeyDigital long cables, install them according to the yellow tag on the cable. Make sure you follow that. And again, to get you that HDR with the long cables, 40, 50, 75 foot length cables, you could use a product like an HD Fix 22. And if that's it for now, then again, you'll want to submit your questions to tech@keydigital.com. Thank you guys for sticking with us here. And again, this video should be posted within just a few days to the KeyDigital YouTube channel. That is youtube.com/Masha KDS. Masha is MASHA KDS, like Key Digital Systems. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.